man. I do what I do.
Now, of course, in practice, right, dealing with real white people or real Americans, they refuse to fully accept them as equals. And that's why you had signs up where you had white Americans saying, oh, no, I don't care what the government says. You are not going to be white. In fact, they actually had some very, I would say, derogatory signs up where they, and I'll actually show you one of these signs. We always see the no colored signs. We always see those signs up, but we never see the signs that say, and I'm gonna see if I can pull it up real quick, but there are signs that say no Spanish, et cetera, no Mexicans, et cetera, et cetera. So those are available to just Google it. I don't want to distract from what we're doing. But again, yeah, they fought to be white. They really, Mexican Americans, they clung to whiteness and they desperately wanted that, you see? And again, as far as the United States was concerned, this wasn't an accident. It was strategic because the U.S. government did not want to recognize a huge portion of non-white citizens into this country, which is that time was largely segregated in an ethno state, if you will. So, you know, the classification, it didn't translate to real world acceptance, but that was the attempt. Okay. Right. And Mexicans were fine with it. Mexican leaders fiercely opposed in the 19th. So what happened in the 20th century, Mexican Americans organizations, they were fighting, of course, not to challenge segregation as a whole, but to legally affirm their status as white citizens. In the 1930s, what happened was the U.S. Census officially classified Mexicans as a separate racial category for the first time. So it was black and then white. And then they said, nah, we got too many of these folks here. We're going to classify them as Mexicans. And Mexican American leaders, they opposed that change, not because they wanted solidarity with black people, but because they saw it as a threat to their social status. And that's why I brought up that case of Mendez versus Westminster. And that's when the Mexican Americans won the right to integrate their schools with white people. Okay, we had the dark-skinned Mexican girl, and she couldn't go to school with her cousins, and her dad sued the school administration, said, well, don't put us with the blacks. We want to go with the whites. And the Ninth Circuit said, yeah, just put her with the whites, because otherwise we'd have to have a school system for the blacks, a school system for the Mexicans, and a school system for the whites. And we don't want to do that, and that's not allowed by California law at the time. Okay. So they forced the non-white schools to allow these brown-skinned Mexican girls in, even though they did allow the other lighter-skinned Mexican children who were her cousins. So now, one of the most prominent Mexican American civil rights organizations is called the League of United Latin American Citizens. And that was never a champion of racial justice. The acronym spells LULAC, okay? And its sole focus was to ensure the Mexican Americans were recognized as white citizens rather than advocating for racial equality for all. It was founded in 1929, and LULAC explicitly promoted Mexican American assimilation to whiteness. Okay, so instead of fighting against Jim Crow laws, LULAC worked to distance Mexican Americans from black people. They pushed for Caucasian rights. They challenged school segregation based on whiteness rather than fighting to dismantle segregation entirely. In Texas, LULAC fought for the right for Mexican Americans to be placed in white schools while leaving black students to suffer in what was separate and unequal. You see, there was a gentleman, his name was Felix Tijerina, and his last name is spelled Tijerina. And he literally had an open rejection of black solidarity. So it's not like black people haven't been approaching Mexicans for solidarity for the past 100 years, okay? But they have openly rejected it. All right, now this gentleman, he was a national leader in the Mexican-American civil rights movement. And he was at one time the president of LU LAC in the 1950s, right when everything was happening. And he made it abundantly clear where Mexican Americans stood on Black civil rights. In 1957, when some members of LU LAC suggested that they allied with Black Americans, because we had it going, right? We had the civil rights movement going, we were marching, seeing the progress. He outright rejected the idea. His infamous words, and I want everybody to look, his words were, "Let the Negro fight his own battles." So I want you to ask yourself, your leaders are saying, let the Negroes fight his own battle. What if Jesse Jackson got out there and said, let those Mexicans fight, let those Latinos fight their own battles? How would you take that right now? Even as Black people, you would cringe. You'd be like, ooh, what if Barack Obama came out and said, let those Latinos fight their own battles, got on national TV? How would you feel about that? Even as Black people, like, oh man, that's kind of racist. That's what he said in 1957, the president of LU LAC, powerful man, spokesperson on behalf of Latinos. Okay? This is what you need to understand. The League of United Latin American Citizens. So we're not just talking about Mexicans. We talk about everybody, whether Puerto Rican, Colombian, all them. This is what they said. This is what their leader said. Let the Negro, meaning Black, fight their own battles. And see, this is not just an isolated statement. It was a reflection of LU LAC's broader anti-Black stance. Tijerina went beyond words, though. He actually enforced segregation in his own business. And Felix Mexican restaurants. This man owned restaurants with his name on it, proud. They refused to serve Black customers. This is 1957, so we want to talk about unity. And I know this is hard to hear. Y'all got some Mexican homeboys. I got some Mexican homeboys I'm cool with. I got some Latino homeboys I'm cool with that would be classified as mestizo. I see how Afro-Latinos are treated. Go down to the DR. Look how the Haitians are treated. Look how the dark-skinned Dominicans are treated. Go to Colombia. Go to Brazil. We see how Black people and indigenous people in these Latin countries are treated. You can go right down to Mexico and see it. I'm just saying, you don't have to like what's being said, but you're going to understand the true history of why Black and Latinos have not come together. It's been over 100 years. We could have came together if we wanted to. It's not Black people. It's not that we are racist against them. They literally have something ingrained in their culture that tells them to practice anti-Black racism. Now, this is the leader of this organization, Felix Tijerina, Mexican restaurant. They refused Black customers. He even went so far as to post a detailed policy in his restaurant for his employees, which explicitly outlined how his staff should go about denying Black people service. Now, another gentleman, this man's name was Gus Garcia. He was he was actually their president, but he was also, he would have been their Thurgood Marshall. All right, y'all with me? Everybody there? You don't have to like it. You don't come here to like what I say. You come here to listen to it and verify it. Listen to this again.
To figure out in the course of this project is the ways that African American civil rights.
Now that gentleman that is above, that's Gus Garcia. Now he ended up going to a few mental wards and dying of alcoholism at some point. But at this point, he was a president. He was their civil rights attorney. So you notice that the brother, this Black lawyer gentleman, he is talking about LU LAC, and he's talking about his interactions with this gentleman.
Rights workers and Mexican American civil rights workers did or did not collaborate on things. So were there examples in the Democratic Party or in your legal career or in any other area where that happened?
Let me say it to you this way. there was not a whole lot of coalition with
none at all.
the Mexican American community. We did all. Well, let me.
They were fighting to be white. They were fighting to be white.
Hit the like, 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 hit the like. It's a party going on. We all looking at Dennis. Spurling and subscribe. It only take you a minute. Hit the cash app, super chat, be a penny. One is real good, but 20 more will be plenty. Blizzard King pay a visit. Big Blast my witness. Appreciate the love that's black men doing business. Stand up, father and brother, loyal is he. Hall of Fame game, he's known as Uncle D. Tell it just like be. Representing for we know time is money, you learning and pay a fee. Know it's cold outside, but the podcast hot. Giving you a feeling that these others ain't got. Say it's cold outside, but the podcast hot. Giving you a feeling that these others ain't got. You know that the blizzard come through. Bundle up for the winter, know this hit. Darren Hay watch views. Hit the light, you know that the blizzard come through. Bundle up for the winter, don't just hit. Darren Hay watch views. Hit the like, hit the like, hit the like.
We still look at all the beautiful music that we've created. That's what's on the inside of us. We are wonderful people.